Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Baseball Strong. This is Jose Vasquez. Have you ever wondered what it takes to become an entrepreneur? Whatever your passion, your interest is. In this case, I'm interviewing my friend Jeff Cavaliere. He is right now, he's a social media personality, but he first started as a business owner. He decided he wanted to do his own business. So when you listen to today, just listen to his story, listen to how he got started. And in this world of social media, the social media business, he is a guy that I look forward to this interview and I look forward to asking him questions. But have you ever wondered what it takes to get started on your own, and especially in this world of social media? Hey Jeff, how you doing, brother?
What's up, buddy? It's
Uh,
been too long, it seems like.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time.
Right.
We connect every now and then, and obviously I follow your stuff because every now and then my shoulder hurts, so I want some
Isn't
different
that funny how that happens to us?
ideas, and every one of us is always suffering with some kind of shoulder,
Right.
especially if you're a fitness guy or an athlete, or shoulders are always kind of creeping up. So before we get started, give me a little background. So what I know of you, I met you when you started out with the Mets back in
Yeah.
2006. You were their
Yeah.
physical therapist, and then soon after that, you started your Athlean X, kind of a little by little. I know that there's more to it, and from what everyone knows right now, you're the Athlean X guy. You've been on
Yeah.
Joe Rogan, you've been on Huberman, and I just found out you were in Kelly and Ryan. So start out from the beginning. How did you get started, and how did some of these ideas that you're doing now came about?
Well, first of all, I owe you a debt of gratitude because if it wasn't for your decision to go to Texas, there'd be no spot for me in New York. So that was a huge thing. Maybe some royalties too, maybe.
Yeah,
We'll see.
yeah, I know.
But
I left, and then you went to the playoffs. I was not happy.
I know, I figured that would have caused a little
Yeah, yeah.
contention, but I got lucky that year for sure, the first year in. I mean, it starts there, to be quite honest. I was fortunate to be considered for that opportunity when it came about. I had to go down and basically do a tryout. I never spent a day in baseball before that. I was very unfamiliar with the procedures of baseball, the traditions of baseball, but I was a huge baseball fan, and of course, I loved the sport. And as a physical therapist, it was a sport that I really liked to try to learn more about because it was, very much, I think, a PT's sport because of all
Hmm.
the breakdowns we can have. So just something that I felt was my area of interest. But I learned a lot. I was incredibly grateful for the opportunity there. I miss to this day the relationships that you have. You knew that far more than me because you spent so many more years and so many more generations of players that came through. But the relationships with the players and the trust that you have with the players was the absolute best part of that job. And the camaraderie every single day and seeing the results of your hard work and teamwork with these guys, I think is the most rewarding part of it. Um, that being said, I always felt a little bit entrepreneurial at heart, right? That was my, like, just before the baseball opportunity ever came about, I always felt like I had an entrepreneurial spirit and something that I wanted to do. So after 3 years in the game, had the opportunity to go on my own and start doing something of, like, or at least attempt to pursue something that was along the lines of this, but maybe spread beyond the lines of baseball. And so I started Athlean X, and um, the early videos that I did were really still focused on baseball related injuries, baseball training. But I felt that there was a wider net for me. I had also done a little bit of writing up until that time for some of the men's fitness magazine, men's health magazine. So, I had a little bit of an avenue to broaden beyond baseball. And it was the best thing I did for a couple reasons because the focus of baseball was so narrow that I was ultimately going to run out of content, I think.
Hmm.
There wasn't as much I could talk about. So by opening that up, I never had to abandon the physical therapy side of what I did. I never had to abandon even the sports performance side of what I did. I just had to broaden it beyond those subject matters so I could talk to more people. And I think that's what the biggest success was for Athlean X. I was the first guy, I think, who started making videos on YouTube, which by the way was solely because it was free and I had
Hmm.
no marketing money to really, build a platform. I didn't have money to go pay Google ads or anything like that. I just had to have a place where I could put myself out there for free. YouTube provided that. I was probably the first guy who brought physical therapy to the strength and conditioning side of things.
Hmm.
And the cool thing about what you and I did, and I always loved this about you when you left PT and became a strength coach, it's like that's not a big shock to us because
Hmm.
it's what we do. It's just that I always view it as like a continuum of performance. You're either in a stage of rehabilitation or you're in a stage of high performance, but our job is to span that entire continuum and bring people
Hmm.
along the line. And that's what you did all the time. And I feel like why am I not doing it in just general fitness education? Like, why can't we train people to get bigger, stronger, look better, but also always keep an eye towards trying to stay healthy and the longevity being able to do this for a long time. So I started making videos, and then the reality is like little by little, and it really truly was little by little. I started to gather more of a following, and people started to find the information helpful, um, and I never stopped. I never stopped making videos. I mean, here we are, 16 years later,
Hmm.
which is crazy when I even think it, but I'm still making videos. Some people get completely floored by this, but I actually still edit a lot of my own videos
Hmm.
just because I want to make sure that the information is coming out the way that I intended to. But I still make videos and grind away and always have the intention of trying to educate on performance, but also still never abandoning our education as PTs.
Yeah. So, that's something that I always uh, could never, it felt like it was difficult for me to get across to people that I was a physical therapist, but I was a strength coach. And then people would look at me as if I was strange because they felt like it was two different things. And
Mm,
I never felt there were two different things. I felt like it was, like you said, a continuum. And
yeah.
all my career as a strength coach, it was a constant evolution of what I was doing, but it was the same approach. I looked at every athlete with a physical therapist eye. I
Hmm.
evaluated every movement, whether I was doing a formal evaluation or not, but I was constantly evaluating the movement and then applying strength and conditioning principles. If we're working power, we're working power. If we're working hypertrophy, we're working hypertrophy. Uh,
Hmm.
and I felt like physical therapists sometimes would pigeonhole themselves into this silo that, oh, all I do is this. And I felt like, that's kind of limiting. And even what you said, as long as I as long as I stayed in the game, I always felt limited also because there's also a lot of territory in baseball. The trainers do this, the hitting coaches do this, this guy does that, uh, and
Down
that's
to like these body parts, you know what I mean?
yeah, and that's I always felt like if I looked at that in that way, it was like, oh, this guy only trains the biceps, and this guy only
Yeah.
trains quads, and then that guy over there is the knee guy. Like, no,
Yeah.
we can do it all. Movement is movement. The body moves a certain way, and the anatomy is a certain way, and the brain operates in a certain way, and we learn skill a certain way. And sometimes I became so frustrated sometimes just working in baseball because I just felt handcuffed. Because if I spoke something that sounded like a rehab situation, oh, I was acting like a trainer. Or if I talked biomechanics, oh, well, you're not a pitching coach. Why are you? And
Right.
so,
Right.
so
Right.
that was a struggle. That was a struggle. I will say that. But anyways, enough about me. But uh, one of the things that I always appreciate about your videos is the education part of it. You do a really, really good job of explaining the anatomy, because one of the things that I really believe in is if you understand the anatomy of the movement, the exercises don't matter. There's so many, because everybody is looking at YouTube and social media and looking at videos, and I'm sure you got this question all the time. Hey, why aren't we doing this exercise? Well,
Uh-huh.
it's not the exercise, it's the anatomy of the exercise and the context of the exercise that really matter. The
Yep.
exercises are just a part of the menu. And I've always appreciated how you always break it down in your videos and do a good job of explaining why this works. And this is the anatomy. These are some options, and go do it. And so, like, I feel like that's the value of being a PT strength coach. You know,
100%.
yeah. And so, like, that's kind of that's guys like you. I've always gravitate toward your educational content because I know that you're coming from an anatomical background and context. It's not You're not just a bodybuilder that finds a an exercise good, you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like there. So my tagline is put the science back in strength, and I've
Mm-hmm.
always felt the science I'm referring to is not the next study,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people have they've gone down the evidence-based or science-based, that's kind of become a buzzword in the last 5 years, path of training, and they just cite study after study after study. And unfortunately, when it comes to strength science, though some is good, some is not so good. Some is
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily conducted in a really controlled way. It's not really that valuable. Some of the findings are overblown and exaggerated by the use of percentages, but really in the real world, it doesn't add up to any real significant increases that
Mm-hmm.
would matter to us in the real world performance. So my science has always been anatomy. Anatomy and physiology is really what guides a lot of the principles of movement. If we can understand that, and to your point, be flexible around movements, you're way more empowering. Like if I could teach you why a certain movement pattern is valuable, it doesn't matter per se if it is exercise A, B, C, or D if they're all doing the same movement pattern. And what's
Mm-hmm.
great, and I think the biggest strength of PTs have to be able to adapt on the fly. If we were in a clinical setting and someone came to you and you pulled out your playbook for, ACL repair, and they went to go do the exercise that's in your playbook and they can't do it, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Is sessions over today?
Yeah.
Like we're not doing anything. Like you have to come up with the next thing for them to try and the next thing. And I say try because that's sometimes what it is. Like, hey, try this. How's that feel? Oh, way better. I'm still getting what we wanted, but they don't get the pain that they were getting. So like
Mm-hmm.
the PT's biggest skill is to be able to adapt in a million different ways. I think when you're a good PT, that's your skill. That's your biggest
Mm-hmm.
skill. To be able to adapt and have a giant toolbox. And so for me, the education piece has always been about how do I make people aware of what that approach is or what the concept is so that within that they have flexibility to choose movements that might feel better for them versus other people. And when you do that, I think you've truly empowered somebody. So my whole thing has been to try to make people feel smarter about their training or the approach they're going to take with their training because of the video that I've done.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's pick on corrective exercise a little bit. Let's pick on that term.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, like what are some of the misconceptions or what are your thoughts on, when people talk about, oh, we need to do corrective exercises, or all I do is I'm a corrective exercise specialist.
Yeah.
Kind of give me your thoughts on that
I
trend,
mean,
that
I'm guilty of
buzzword.
calling exercises corrective to put them into a category, but like they're in all of my programs. So how are they corrective? They're just exercises I think that tend to focus on the muscles that get overlooked more often, right? So that's where they
Mm-hmm.
go into the corrective category, but they're no less important. There's no unimportant muscle.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people place more or less importance on ones based on aesthetic appeal,
Mm-hmm.
more of the obvious benefits of training one or the other, but there's nothing that's unimportant. And again, when we see breakdown in physical therapy, it usually comes from an inattention to the smaller muscles that aren't getting this focus. So they become corrective in nature if they're being used as part of rehabilitation to correct what was missing in the first place. But if
Hmm.
you're doing them all the time, they're like preventive exercises, or they're the smart exercises because they enable the larger compound exercises to move more efficiently. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the term itself. As long as people are incorporating them on a regular basis into their training,
Hmm.
then I think that we're doing our job. But as far as like this specific term, I think that it's probably gotten a, if they're calling them corrective, then they might be waiting for something to have like actually gone wrong before they use them, and that would be a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes people get caught up on terminology,
Uh-huh.
and what you're saying and what I'm saying is that focus on what's not working. Like I
Hmm.
think you said it. You said it good. I mean, well, I'm sorry. Um, I look at corrective exercises at what is not working correctly, and that's what I am going to address, and then we move on. Once that's working correctly, then it becomes something else. And so I feel like that. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, and the idea of corrective exercise has always been misused because they just want to label. Everyone wants to categorize things a certain way, and it's not. It's all goes back to the movement pattern that you're trying to achieve and what's not working. And
Yeah,
so,
I mean, something as simple as like something for your lower traps, or I mean, obviously more people know about the rotator cuff, but like the lower traps have a key function too with overhead movement. So you're not really gonna just hit the lower traps effectively when you think I'm gonna do shrugs, so I'm gonna work my traps. Well, that's not that part of the trap. So
hmm.
that part matters too. That part matters with a different function, and therefore it needs to be trained. Like
Hmm.
it's not. I just think people they I think they need to understand the importance which is another reason why I think I go into the explanation I do in the videos, is if they understand the importance of what these muscles do and why they're there in the first place, and how it feeds into the more obvious, the ones that get all the attention,
Hmm.
then I think there's more of a buy-in to it. And it's our job to get people to understand the function so that they can buy into the concept of working it. But it's just funny to us because there are really specific ways to work these muscles, and if you don't do anything to actually create the function that the muscle is there for, then how are you actually going to train it? You're not.
Hmm.
You have to like deliberately try to do what it is that these muscles do. And again, to your point, you need to allow them to do what they're supposed to do so that you're not missing what you're missing.
Hmm.
It's the filling in what's missing part, you know?
Yeah. Um, you've been in fitness for a long time, and I'm sure you probably were a workout guy before you became a physical
Yeah.
therapist. And so, like guys like us, we've been working out for a long time and trying to figure out the body and the physical fitness part of life. What are some training principles that you believe that are timeless? Because everybody's always coming up with things that they think are new, but most of the time, what are some things in your mind that are timeless?
That's a good question. I think that first and foremost, consistency is everything. It is
Hmm.
literally everything when it comes to health and fitness. So, can you mentally commit to doing something over and over and over and over again? Usually they define that as insanity if it's not
Hmm.
yielding any new results. But like sometimes in fitness, no new results is still a result because you're
Hmm.
not losing in the process of aging, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in that state these days. But like being able to mentally be excited to show up every day is one thing. Being able to physically show up and perform every day is another thing. Like that, I think it becomes even more. How old are you now? 50 what?
56.
Okay, and I'm 50, I'm gonna be 51 and later this
Hmm.
month. Like it's just the reality is like I think we deserve to feel proud of ourselves for not just doing it for as long as we have, but continuing to be able to do it. But it doesn't come without taking assessment of how you're doing what you're doing, and realizing that sometimes changes need to be made. So along the lines of being able to consistently do what we do, I think some of the other timeless traditions are, how do you balance out volume and intensity?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that as we get older, I have the belief that there's a certain number of rotations on the tire. And
Mm-hmm.
just like anything mechanical, it breaks down eventually.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as we get older, I don't think that age is an alibi for effort. I think that you need to continue to be able to produce high levels of effort, but you might have to try to control the volume as an offset to
Mm-hmm.
that, because you can't go super high effort, super high volume,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's when you start to break down. So how do we look to ways that we can increase effort and intensity? And again, whether we're training for strength or whether we're training for hypertrophy, that's going to look a little bit different, but still be able to drive high levels of effort. So I'm of the mindset, I think that training to failure or very close to failure is an important component if you're training for hypertrophy, not if you're training for strength. But again, high levels of effort are required regardless. And I think that recovery is important, super important, becomes even more important as we get older. Um, so always having a priority on at least determining what the right recovery is for you and your body or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
training phase you're in. And I think that trying to maintain a multidimensional view of fitness is going to serve most people
Mm-hmm.
in a more timeless way. Because I look, if I have 30 minutes, I'm going to lift weights because that's what I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm probably not going to stretch, or I'm probably not going to work on mobility. I'm probably not going to, but I don't think that gives the best overall fitness
Mm-hmm.
result. The
Mm-hmm.
best overall fitness result is going to be, I don't have to hammer every single thing super hard or again with super high volumes. I can save some of that time to devote to different elements of my health and fitness, cardiovascular, again, like different types of cardiovascular fitness, either higher intensity or just slower, steady cardio fitting into just for overall cardiac health. All these things should find a little piece of the pie so that you can create a more well-rounded fitness approach. But I think when combined together into a consistent plan, that's the secret to longevity and feeling good and being able to perform at a higher level than 98% of the people around you because they're not doing it consistently.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to take a minute and kind of summarize a lot of what you just said, because a lot of what you said just now is applicable to anyone, but especially a high school baseball player.
Yeah.
With all the information going out there, I don't remember in your conversation just now, you did not mention one exercise. You did not mention one type of training. You did not mention a lot of things that people would have said in this case. You mentioned
Mhm.
consistency. You mentioned effort. You mentioned managing your effort because you can't go hard every day. You
Focused
mentioned,
effort.
yeah, focused effort. That's one thing that I feel like a lot of high school athletes are missing. They'll go to the facility, they got strength coaches, they got personal coaches and whatever, but they don't. They're not focused because they're expecting the coach to tell them what to do. They don't understand why they're doing certain things, and we're always on our phone. I struggle with with the kids when in between sets they go grab their phone, and so focused effort. Also, focus on recovery. You have to have a mindset of, when am I going to rest? I've worked out 5 days this week. Okay, I got to build in some days or some strategies to recover, to heal from all this work. And so when it comes to timeless trends, the things that are never going to change is you got to be consistent. Your effort has to be focused. You have to recover. And if you do those things, you're probably going to be healthy and you're probably going to perform at a high level. And it is always my hope, too, that if you're an athlete and you engage in all this training and you spend years training, when you're done playing, I'm hoping that you take this on and you make it part of your lifestyle. Now, you've been playing for so many years, you were a college player or whatever. Keep doing strength training, keep lifting
Yeah.
heavy, keep running, keep doing whatever you were doing before. It should never stop. I have a patient right now who was a former athlete, and through life and kids and whatever, I always hear the same story. Man, I was in such good shape when I was in my 30s, and now I'm 50, man, and I'm fat, and I'm this, and I'm that. I'm like, okay, then why did you quit?
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody has a story and whatever, but the point is if you're an athlete, man, don't quit. Don't quit working out. Don't quit that lifestyle, because you're gonna have a better lifestyle in your 50s. Do you want to be a physically fit, able-bodied 50-something-year-old, 60-something-year-old, or do you want to be overweight with back problems, knee problems, and the same kind of things that sometimes I see in the clinic? Don't quit. Just use these principles and apply them to the rest of your life, and you're probably gonna be a healthy human being. So,
Yeah, I mean, think about that. What you said the clinic, right? And one of the biggest things in my limited clinical time was there were people that would return, right? They'd be recurring patients and
mm-hmm,
they'd come back. And when you discharged them, they were feeling good and they went on their way. And it's always the same answer. You say, well, what happened? You say, well, I was feeling really good. And so I stopped doing some of the things that we were doing because whatever, I felt good. And it's like exact right there is your answer. You literally
mm-hmm,
you stopped doing the things that because you were feeling good. Well, stop and consider the fact that you felt good because of the things you were doing.
mm-hmm.
So you need to continue to do those things that keep you at a certain level of performance, health, and good and just overall well-being and make sure that you prioritize that in your life. I think my biggest thing that's changed for me going back to my like teenage years was I thought that the excess was required. I thought that more was always better.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I followed Mike Mentzer's heavy duty routine,
Mm-hmm.
which blew my mind because it was one set to failure. And it's like, how is this possible? After
Mm-hmm.
spending 2 hours in the gym or three. But I actually got results from doing that. And I couldn't stick with it because I couldn't do that level of intensity all the time. I probably wasn't even in love with training that much back then enough to do that. But it did show me like, wow, I could do a fraction of what I was doing and still get results. So I started to become a believer in that. Of course, as we became PTs, we understand the value of recovery and the role it plays. And a lot of people, the more that they become, but they buy into that concept, they become believers too because they feel they can do almost better in the long run than they could by just banging their head against the wall doing the same thing over and over again. And I think you mentioned the kids, like that is the concept right now. It depends on what day and age and what position they play and who their coaches are and what the scouts are looking for, but they fixate on velocity and they fixate on playing more and more and more. And if they don't play in this tournament, they're not going to get seen. And it's the visibility and all the wrong drivers
Mm-hmm.
of long-term sustainability. That might be, listen, I'm not in the game that in that capacity these days. I don't know exactly what happens to the player who refuses
Mm-hmm.
to play those games and doesn't want to continue to play every single every single month of every single year and decides to take off and do a different sport. Like I don't know if coaches start to look down on them as not committed or whatever nowadays. I'm not sure what that perception is like, but if that's the case, then the coaches need to change the way they're perceiving and evaluating players because letting people continue to do the schedules and participate in the schedules that they are, and to continue to try to just throw harder, 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 and not respect the long goal here is gonna sacrifice what you could ultimately get out of that kid for many years to come. They might be really great in high school and they'll burn out way before they ever should, because the pressure is just too high and it's focused on the wrong things. We just talked about all these generalities because the generalities are what's going to guide you for the long career. I'll
Mm-hmm.
say one other thing. I was just watching, of course, I get inundated in my shorts nowadays by all different things, but like I was watching a bunch of shorts lately on Greg Maddux.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, come on. I mean, Greg Maddux was never, the most imposing pitcher, throwing the hardest, fastest, whatever. Just an amazing, amazing pitcher. And I just realized I just found this short, which is just crazy to me. In all the years he pitched, his I guess it was Eddie Perez that was saying that when he caught the ball on the return, he called his own game.
Yeah.
And when he
Hmm.
caught the ball on the return, if he caught it out here, it's fastball away, next pitch. If he caught it up against his body, it's fastball inside. And whatever he was doing, all his little, things, they were all the next pitch.
Hmm.
And he executed an entire Hall of Fame career doing all that and basically making people look stupid. But it was because he knew how to pitch. And I hope that there's like that it's not just the continued push for more and more velocity that's like gonna prevent the next person who can really pitch from being a great player too.
Hmm.
You know, and because I think that sometimes these kids are being driven in a direction that is certainly not serving them long term. It could get them there and get them there with showy numbers and flashiness, but it's not going to keep them there.
Yeah. So that's an example of an elite pitcher. But one of the things that you said earlier also is to be a multidimensional athlete or fitness person. Uh, One of the things that we underestimate is the mental side, not from the mental health part, but just the strategy.
Mhm.
Greg Maddux was a genius when it came to calling the game. He developed his own signs. Yeah, I've seen that same video and I'm blown away. I got a chance to talk to him many times when he come around the Rangers, and just I would just listen to his stories just because I'm a fan, and I wanted to get into his mind a little bit just to hear him talk. And one of the things that I know for a fact is not being taught in a lot of these baseball schools is that kind of that level of thinking.
Yeah.
Each athlete, every one of us, we need to have a conversation with ourselves about what we're going to do this week. Okay, Monday I'm going to do legs. Tuesday I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to the spa and recover. We all have conversations with ourselves about what we want to do. And in my opinion, when it comes to training, you should always have that mind and body connection and that conversation going in your head. Like, am I doing this exercise right? Is this exercise going to get me to where I want to go? Is this exercise going to help me drive toward home plate better? Is this exercise going to keep my shoulder healthy? Uh, you know, is this does this fastball play? Am I able to locate a fastball outside as opposed to I'm just going to throw this one as hard as I can? I had a conversation with a kid that I'm rehabbing. He's been cleared by the doctor. He's 1 year post surgery, and he's going back to playing summer ball. And he wanted to know. The mom asked me, how hard should he throw his bullpens? And I said, well, unless you have a TrackMan or a radar gun, how about you just focus on throwing strikes? How about you just focus
Yeah.
on locating inside, outside, up and down, and be accurate and be effortless and feel efficient, and strategize. Maybe make up a batter and play a game in your head. Uh, those are the kind of things that drive performance. You can't just do mindless body work and then expect your body to perform automatically. We're not robots. Sometimes we have to talk ourselves into performance, whether you're an athlete or whether you're a regular Joe who's going to the gym. Talk to yourself and make your body work the way you want to, but you have to be thoughtful and you have to think about what you're thinking about and talk to yourself a certain way so that you promote certain movements. Um, and that's part of training. That's, when as you're organizing your lifestyle and you want to be fit and you want to perform at a high level, you have to have a mindset of, okay, you have to look in the mirror and say, I'm going to do this. I need to be able to concentrate in the exercise. I have to look at my body. Am I moving in the right direction? Or am I shifting when I squat? Whatever it is, but your mind has to be involved when it comes to training. Otherwise, all you're doing is just mindless work. And you might get stronger and gain muscle and whatever, but like performance requires mindfulness, and it's important. It's
And think
important.
about when you're in your own training. I think PTs do this a lot, but like in your own training, you even if you're lifting a kettlebell or you're lifting a dumbbell, like you're always like, what if I moved it a little bit out here? What if I
Hmm.
did, oh, what does that do? How's that feel? Oh, that's different. Like you're always constantly tweaking, assessing, reassessing,
Yeah.
and trying to improve the quality of the movement for yourself.
Yes.
But then when you learn how to, do that for yourself, I then take it to other people, but I also don't then expect it's going to work exactly the same way because all
Mm-hmm.
bodies are different. So I'll also make the suggestion, hey, it might help if you take it a little bit further outside. How's that feel now? And maybe 90% of the time they'll say that, oh, it's way better. I feel that more now. That's great. Or they might say, no, that doesn't feel so great. And that goes back to that idea of having more tools in your toolkit for how to approach your training. But you don't get the tools in your toolkit if you're not trying to expand the toolkit by
Mm-hmm.
not becoming more educated in what you do. And we could go back to the pitchers. Like I think that is a lost art, the gamesmanship of the mental side of being a smart pitcher. Or if you look at some players like, I don't know, take like an Aaron Rodgers, right? Aaron Rodgers has the longevity that he does because he's a thinking quarterback. Like he definitely
Mm-hmm.
has a level of or Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady still when you see clips of him talk about the art of being a quarterback and reading defenses and stuff. That is what made him so good.
Yeah.
He had the talent to throw, but he didn't like it's the next level. And I think that a lot of kids are not understanding the mental side of it that could really truly separate them. They're relying all on physical. And when you think about the mental side of it, whether you're a hitter and you know what that pitcher's going to try to do to you. Another Greg Maddux short. I feel like it's repetitive here, but he was talking about an at bat. You probably saw the same ones because they serve up the same
Mm-hmm.
ones to
Yeah.
everybody. It was talking about an at bat he had against Barry Bonds,
Mm-hmm.
and Barry Bonds was thinking, I knew he was going to throw. He was going to try to hit me outside first. When he didn't do that, I knew he'd try to jam me. That like how many times do you think these kids these days go
Mm-hmm.
to the plate literally with a plan of what they think is going to happen, or are
Mm-hmm.
they just sitting there with the bat in their hands, reacting to where the ball is going?
Yeah.
And I think that is such an underappreciated element in that kids can become so much more dangerous as a player if they really fully grasp the psychology of the game they're playing and what
Mm-hmm.
they're actually trying to do, pitcher or hitter, and could utilize their physical skills. Because let's face it, too, you're seeing, I'm sure these days, better and better physical specimens and athletes than you ever saw before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
like the interest in fitness because of YouTube and videos and things like that I do and many others do. The interest in the physicality is more than it was ever when we were kids, and that's a good thing. But it's at the same time, it's at the expense of learning the other side of the game and how to actually be smarter at the game. And when you can combine the two of them, then I think it works. And I think that the smarter the person becomes, they do start to realize I can't go out there and throw 100 every single pitch. Like
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't seem like a wise idea. That doesn't sound like I'm going to be able to stay around for long doing that. So they will start to make the changes or prioritize recovery more because they understand that it matters. So it's the education that goes into all of it that makes it more significant.
Yeah. One thing I've been saying lately is talking about the mental side of the weight room. Every time
Hmm.
you walk out of the weight room, I feel like you should know your body better.
Hmm.
You should learn something about your body every time you walk out. You should have, like today I did this and it didn't feel as well as it did last time. Why?
Yeah,
Perhaps I was not focused, or maybe I was a little tighter at my hip or something. Every time you're in the weight room, you should be constantly taking inventory of your body so that you walk
yeah,
out of there, you know your body better. And the more you know your body better when you play the game and you're getting warmed up to play a game. I remember
mhm,
this, and I got this idea from a player years back, and he told me this because I was asking him about his pregame routine on the line and when we're in the outfield, you know how we get ready in the game, and he's like, "Yeah, man, when I come out here, I want to take inventory of my body. I want to know how I feel before I get in the game because if I'm tight, I know that maybe I need to stretch more, or I need to warm up longer, or perhaps that day I'm gonna have to run at 60%." Uh, and so, as an athlete, you need to have inventory of your body. You need to know how your body's working each and every day so that you know what level of intensity you can put out that day. Uh, and it goes back the same thing to on the mound. All right, you know what? You know you don't have a fastball that day. Your fastball is not, you know, doing what it does. Is not. I'm not throwing as hard. Okay, well perhaps today's a day that I use my changeup, or today's
yeah,
a day that I do something different. I change my sequence. I approach the batter backwards. Something. But the weight room is a very easy place to work on that mind and body connection and learn your body the best you can. Because that I've always felt that each and every time you walk out of the weight room, you know your body better. So
Yeah, I
that's
love that. I mean, I also think we and what I teach, I say to use your warm up sets as a systems check, right? So you're
hmm
just trying to check
yeah.
the systems. How's it feel? Like, when I'm doing the first set of a dumbbell bench press, I'm just trying to go. First of all, I go slower than usual because I'm
hmm
just trying to make sure that give myself a chance to assess what's going on.
hmm
And as I'm moving the weights, oh, my elbow feels a little bit cranky there. Okay, well, oh no, it's all right. But the second, third rep, no, it's gone. That click is gone. Okay, now I'm trying to feel how's my shoulder feel. It's a little cranky, but let me go, one more set here and see. Like I'm trying to use that warm up to truly connect with what I'm presenting in the weight room that day. So like how am I presenting that day? Because that's ultimately going to be the most important thing for that specific workout. It might look completely different from what it looks like a week from now or 2 weeks from now, but the purpose of that warm up is to get in tune with my body and feel that I'm in control as I embark on the rest of the workout and lifting heavier weights and trying to actually achieve something. So I love that. I love that. I love that idea, whether it be in sports or in the weight room.
Yeah. Um, with all the arm injuries today, what are some of the things that you are still seeing when it comes to shoulder training? What are some of the mistakes that people are still making? What are some of the things that people still leave out in their shoulder training? Obviously, no one has the answers when it comes to arm injuries in Major League Baseball. I think people kind of go sideways on that. But like, in your experience and things, people you talk to, things you see, what are some of the things that people are still getting wrong when it comes to shoulder training?
I definitely think not enough people do the the corrective work, right? Like
hmm
the rotator cuff exercises, the scapular exercises, the exercises to just restore normal motion in the shoulder blades. Like I don't think people um, ever try to do enough of that, and then they focus on this pressing overhead or lifting at most lateral raises, like not a lot of three-dimensional training for the shoulder. And it's like this is a ball and socket joint that has a lot of range of motion, and you're just locking yourself into one single plane. Hopefully, getting them in the scapular plane does seem to help with a lot of people with overhead mechanics and pain, but it's not just that. It's being able to move your shoulder in space because it is so mobile. And it is maintaining mobility through the entire shoulder girdle, not just the shoulder itself. So there's where the shoulder blades um, become so important. So I don't know. I think it's just be looking at the shoulder a little bit more globally and understanding what it is you're trying to do with it. Sometimes the shoulder needs to be very stable, like as in a bench press, and being able to properly stabilize your scapula before pressing. And then sometimes you need your shoulders to be more mobile and you need those other parts to be able to move freely. So when you're doing even pull-ups and your arms got to be overhead, uh, how are your shoulder blades moving? And what are the strength and balances between those smaller muscles and those dominant muscles? Because as you know, big, strong deltoids, weak rotator cuff, that's usually going to cause a problem long term. So they're just not prioritizing enough of that care, as we say, the filling in the things that are missing. They're not applying enough of that. And I think if they got into regular routines that those exercises were just part of their shoulder training, they'd have a whole lot less issues. I also have issues with certain exercises. I've been so adamantly against upright rows, and people like
hmm
they always want to save that. Somehow they always want to save it from me and tell me there's no bad exercises and stuff. But like when I know I can do a high pull and get literally all the same benefits and not have to be in the position of an upright row, and
hmm
I could just flip it and be more externally rotated, like I'll take that every day of the week, and it's not a compromise on what I'm trying to do. So every now and then I think that there's some exercises that probably could be cast aside, but it's
hmm
not really those as much as it's the lack of the other muscles that they're not doing that's probably causing the imbalances that lead to these issues.
Good, good. So, all right, for the last section, let's talk business a little bit. So,
Yeah.
um, One of the things that, obviously you have been doing this, the social media, the video training for 16 years. What are some of the things that you feel you do well to maintain the trust with your people?
I always try to, again, I try to lead with some form of education. So there are a lot of guys out there who feel like they feel the need to make the video about them all the time. Like there's literally some guys that we see and they cross our feed and whatever, and it's like always about the next thing that they lived, the next accomplishment they had, the next thing they did for this client, the next thing they did for that client. At the end of the day, people don't give a shit, honestly, like what you've done or what you can do for somebody else. They always are clicking on the video because they want to learn something for themselves.
Hmm.
Or if you're having a shoulder issue and you click on one of my videos, you're hoping to gain something that you can do for your shoulder because it hurts you at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think you have to put that all that aside and understand that your motivation should be educating. Now, I think the social media has taken a major turn for the worse of late because of all the focus on short form content. And you literally have to create they call it like a 3 second hook. You have to hook
Hmm.
people in the first 3 seconds of a short. So not only that you're cutting down a 10-minute video to a 30-second video, but you only get the first 3 seconds to convince them to watch the next 27.
Hmm.
So you really have to create content that just gives the what and never the how.
Hmm.
And so nowadays, I still try to go, well, give me an extra 15 seconds. I'll take 45 seconds as long as I can give them a little bit of the why or the how.
Hmm.
Because if I can give that, then I feel like I'm giving the empowering piece there. So it's not just, hey, don't do this because I told you don't do it. It's
Hmm.
don't do this because of this. And now you understand the concept. So if you don't do this, you have a choice to do something else if you want. Like you have a little bit of the empowerment of the education. So I still try to do everything I do by leading with education that helps the person watching. That I think is
Okay.
critical for any success in social media these days.
Uh,
As far as the other thing, consistency, like you have to be consistent regardless of whatever early results you see. The first video I put out was, I mean, I probably got 10 views and eight of them were my own family members. So like you can't be daunted by a slow start. Um, the reality in social media is that it's become they call it interest-based media now, not necessarily social media. So you're not socially following only a certain amount of people. They've diminished the significance of subscribers to the point where your feed is not the people that you follow. Your feed on Instagram is going to be the types of things you've been watching. So with a deprioritization on the people that you actually may have clicked follow for. And in a way, that's a great opportunity for uh, new creators because you're not being judged on a lack of following. You're being judged on the piece of content that's being surfaced right now and how relevant it is to the other things that people are watching right now. So if you have something to say and you can present it in a way that people find interesting and shareable, like they want to share it with their friends or somebody else, you can really win in social media now, which is different than when it was based on having a popular channel or a big presence already.
yeah, no, that's good. That's good because I think one of the things that physical therapists like, anyways, is education.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, a lot of the strength coaches that I worked with, they pride themselves in being educated. So I think that education in every message is probably key. I'm turned off by like what you just said, the idea of the hook. Every little
Hmm.
short video has a hook.
Yeah.
It just feels kind of tricky. You're tricking somebody into watching your video when uh, the meat of it is probably not even on that video, and the context is not even in that video. It's probably in the
Yeah.
other one. So that's good
The
because
only
I.
thing you could do, the only thing you could do there is like you try to give if you're going to give the what,
Hmm.
then make it a good what. And
Hmm.
then if you have a long form video that you made on the same subject where you give all the context and the nuance and all
Hmm.
the how or the why, then you can point them. They make it easy now to point them to the longer video by linking that longer video on that short. I don't know
Hmm.
what the click-through rate of it is. Again, because of the reality is that there's attention spans are dropping every
Hmm.
day, and
Yeah.
especially in the populations you talked about before of the younger kids, they're dropping every single day. And I don't know if there's a guarantee that they'll be able to go over there for the education, but I will say this a lot of the people who are consuming your content aren't just the kids, they're the parents.
Yeah.
And I still think we have a chance with the parents because our generation still kind of likes education a little bit. And that again, I'm not saying this is something that the younger generations are knowingly turning against. It's not like that they don't
Hmm.
want to be educated.
Yeah.
They just are becoming consumed with short form content to the point where that's the only way that they feel comfortable consuming information. So if the parents can actually get the information and then relay it to their kids, that's still a good way to do it. And I
Hmm.
think you're never going to get me to forego the education, even if it means less views in the process, because you're still going to have a higher quality following that actually wants the education.
Yeah.
Right. There's a reason why we have podcasts. Why do we have podcasts still? If everything was about short form and really quick stuff, why do we still have podcasts? Because there's
Hmm.
still a preference for people to not just always get everything so quick, but to dive deep into subjects and to hear people talk about their stories and their experiences and kind of get into the weeds of what we do.
Hmm.
Because there's still people that are still interested in that. So you don't want to forego that. And I think the biggest, strongest following comes from the people who you've consistently educated and they can
Hmm.
rely on you for good education and content.
Yeah, and that's the goal of this podcast is to educate the parents because they're the ones spending the money uh, for going vacations.
Yeah.
Is a big commitment, and I want to educate them. I want to educate them on what works, what I've seen. The people that come on the show, what have they seen? What works for them? You know, is it this? Is it that? And be able to educate them so that they can help their kids better because the teams are not going to help them individually. The clubs are not going to help them individually. It is the support system of the parents that is probably
Yeah.
going to have the longer impact. And so it's my hope to put out information that is educational. And at the end of the day, the people that are looking for good information are the ones that are going to watch this. The people that
Yeah, right.
don't are they don't care much about it. They're satisfied with the short videos and the hooks and
Yeah.
the popularity of this thing or that thing. At the end of the day, success comes from consistency and consistency with the right information. And so that's I think what I think you just said is just you always want to educate, and the people that want
Yeah.
education they're going to take the time.
Well, what's funny to me is you wouldn't go put like if someone introduced a new supplement to you, you wouldn't go try the new supplement without trying to understand what is it going to do to my body again? What
Hmm.
does it do? What does this do to me? Are there any side effects? Is there anything I should be concerned about? Like you ask all those questions naturally when it's something you're going to put in your body. Well, what's the difference of something you're going to do to your body? You should understand what the potential repercussions are, or what the benefits are, or what it is you're actually trying to pursue. You know, one of the biggest questions that we get like to this day. What does this work?
Hmm.
What muscles does this exercise work? Or even more so of a beginner question, where am I supposed to feel this?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they don't even know. And so if you don't have that part down, then how can you get any real benefit from the exercise if you don't even know what it's supposed to be, where you're supposed to be feeling it? So I go back to the education. If you can get people to care about the education as
Hmm.
much as they would care about the side effects of something they're going to put in their body, then you probably have the right people with the right population. And I think when it comes to parents, these are your children. You're very concerned about the well-being of your children. You want the
Yeah.
best for them, number one. You want them to be happy, number two. You want them to succeed in things that they pursue because they're going to put a lot of time and effort into it. So the parents do care about all of the information, I
Hmm.
think. That's why they'll listen to this podcast and they'll try to do that. But I think the most successful kids or the kids that are going to turn into the most successful athletes are going to be the ones that care almost as much because they're going to want to know that too. So they can become the next generation that has the physical tools, but also the mental skills to back it up.
Yeah. All right, one last one. So, what advice would you give healthcare professionals that want to build an online brand, a social media presence? What advice would you give them right now?
Um, so I'll give the truth. You know, the truth is that I think the opportunity is better than it's ever been because of everything I just said before about the the willingness of platforms to showcase content, even if the follower count is very low. If the information resonates, then it could possibly find its way out into the masses really quickly. And you can build brands and presences really fast these days versus I think what it was like years ago. Um, that being said, people get way too scattered. They don't know where to start. They'll start a podcast and do one episode, and then they'll go and they'll start a YouTube channel and do three videos, and then they'll go and they'll start a TikTok, and then they'll go and they'll start like they're way too scattered. The one thing I think that helped me the most was I dedicated myself to YouTube early on, and I decided I wanted to make my presence known and become uh, established on one platform. That happened to be a free platform. So it was easy for me to get my message out without having to pay any extra advertising costs. So it was a good thing for me. I think it was the right decision at that time. At that time, but I wasn't trying to also build out a massive TikTok and a massive Instagram and a massive, blog and a massive like I didn't do all that.
Hmm.
I stayed focused on one thing that I could do really well. It's not to say that you can't run a podcast and also have an Instagram page. I mean, I think that's, in social media you have to have a presence somewhere. But in terms of putting all of your time and effort in, because I do think it requires a lot of time and effort. You and I were talking about this before we came on. Like this is a new world. This is your new pursuit. You're an entrepreneur and you're building a business. You spend a lot of time in that business. I have put a lot of hours and a lot of sacrifices into making my business. But make sure it's one that you know that you like and you love and that you want to continue to put a lot of time and effort into. And when you keep it focused in one area, you're able to keep getting better at that and you're able to continue to build that up and see its growth. When you're too scattered, you don't
Hmm.
even know how to evaluate or assess success because you're too spread out. You want to be able to find something you can evaluate the success of because you're focused on that one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Last thing, you have a lot of things going on. I think you're coming out with. Is it an app? Is it that you're coming out with? Just or is it? I seen a couple of advertisements of something new. What's new in your business that's coming out right now?
So we have an app that is in development, and it's been so long in development. It's been like 3 years of development, which is not typical for an app. But we've always delivered our programs, let's say, in a portal online that people could log into, and it
Hmm.
was built in a web-based portal, but it doesn't have app functionality. Because of the way that I write programs, it's and because we were talking about before training intensely and training with intensity techniques and even something as simple as drop sets or other things that would intensify a set beyond two or through failure, it's not handled so easily with an app when you're
Hmm.
trying to train in real time and have the app almost act as your coach,
Yeah.
right? And tell you how long to rest. And now it's time to get back into the next set and tracking your progress and incorporating some of these intensity techniques that are not just straight sets. All those things take programming, they take extra work and attention. And we have more than 45 programs at this point. So to have it fit all of those programs and be able to accommodate all those programs
Hmm.
uh, has been a lot of work, right? But again, I feel like it's the education priority from before. Like I want to make sure this is correct. That when people use it, it's intuitive and they know how to actually follow their training. And it's not like I want them to feel like they're getting coached by me, even if I'm not there. So it's
Hmm.
taken a bit more time, but that's something that we're working on. We have it. We have our entire supplement lineup now.
Hmm.
NSF Cert for Sport. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
As you know, that was a remnant of my experience in MLB. How important it was for us then, and now I have a lot of athletes that take our supplements in different sports, and so we went ahead instead of making certain lots for the athletes. Now we make our entire supplement lineup NSF for sports. So no matter what lot it is, no matter who's buying it, they're all assured of the fact that it's NSF for sport. And that was a big deal. So other than that, we're just sort of grinding away. I've toyed with the idea of doing something like this and doing a podcast, but we were joking, before. It's like you gotta force yourself to do something you're not so comfortable with if
Yeah.
you're gonna do it. And I'm not super comfortable doing things like this, or leading the interview is probably harder than answering the questions. So I admire what you're doing, but it's another thing that I've considered at least.
Yeah. Well, no, hey, I'm still learning. I'm a rookie podcaster, if that's even a term. But hey, Jeff, man, it's good to catch up with you.
Oh, man.
Obviously, a lot of wisdom, a lot of expertise when it comes to fitness. I hope that the parents, athletes, CrossFitters, anybody that watches this got some kind of wisdom about how to lift, how to approach it, how to come up with a plan, how to think, and how to, at the end of the day, is how to learn more about their bodies so that they can perform at a higher level, so they can do life at a higher
Yeah.
level.
Yeah,
Uh,
I hope so. And I think if they can just try to become more well-rounded in their approach, they're going to be better off. And also, by the way, I never got my championship in 2006, but you got yours in 2023. So you waited longer than me, but you got something I don't have, which is I'm very jealous of.
yeah, yeah. No, it was a good time. It was a good time. I'm proud of it. As I've been in baseball since I was 5 years old, so
Yeah,
it was quite an accomplishment to be part
well
of it.
deserved.
And
Well deserved.
I'm happy I got to be there, and now I'm to on to the next chapter, and but with the same intent, I still want to impact baseball players. I still want to impact people in
Yep.
their health and fitness, and hopefully help people just live better. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, man, thank you so much. Hey, this is Jose
All right.
Vasquez for Baseball Strong. Hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.